Strange time of year, isn't it? Sort of the time between the times. At least there's been a kind of eerie stillness in the streets around our parts. Luster of the gift-giving already behind us. Someone got the ultimate this year. An all-in-one digital wireless PDA net hub camera cell phone coffee percolator. Well, I'm not sure. Between the times, Christmas glow is already fading. Needles have replaced the gifts beneath those trees. That is, if you have one of those trees. It's absolute heresy for someone from Michigan, which is where the trees all come from, to go with plastic, but we succumbed a few years ago and sprayed it with pine scent. Lo and behold, the plastic shrunk this year from 6.5 feet to 2.5 feet, and the lights came already hung. That's the latest, I guess. No more snarl and tangle, just set it up and turn it on. The fateful sense of time passing is around the corner yet. It always gets me a little bit early, my birthday coming the day before. What am I celebrating anyway? The loss of another 12 months, the fact that I've survived, or am I simply trying to forget? You're getting older. Good friend sent me a nice card this year. The front cover says, "Another inning of life, no hits, no runs, no errors." Inside, no hair, no teeth, no memory. Oh well, happy birthday, I will try. What is our major problem with these days between the times? Is it not a mild uneasiness, at least, at what the days evoke? As another year approaches, the markets are dead in the water, uncertain, someone says. Uncertain about what? The threatening possibilities that lurk in the shadows of another year about to crank up and get going. My wife passed on a news article indicating that grumbling is widespread this year, despite a common vow after September 11th not to sweat the small stuff. Petty annoyance seems to be really back in style. The country faces legitimate worries with a faltering economy and the threat of a war, but even, says this journalist, even the minor hassles seem to rankle. Traffic's a nightmare, my job stinks, there's only one clerk to handle the gift returns. Griping in the American workplace is so prevalent, we're told that Harvard researchers have even studied it, and they've coined a term for it, the BMW mode, short for bitching, moaning, and whining. Might it all, though, seriously, be a surface manifestation of a certain fear toward the future, especially at this time of year when we mark the fact that the future seems to be rushing at us a little more than usually? Fear is very much a part of the life of every human being in one measure or another. In a Frank and Ernest comic strip, Frank announces, "Congratulations, Ernie, you've just been elected president of our local phobia club." Ernie replies, "I'm afraid of that." Discovered a new one the other day, erykibutyrophobia. That's hysteria when peanut butter sticks to the roof of your mouth. But it's part of all our lives. Some dread or other is generally in the air, is it not? In childhood, it's the fear of going to bed in the dark. Later, it's the fear of school, the first contact with life's crudeness as well as responsibilities. Later still, there's the experience all of us know of waking up on some mornings with a feeling of dismay at all we have to do that day. Fear dogs all of us in one way or another, everybody in some way. Mother's afraid for her children, the father's afraid for his business, the executive is afraid for his position. There's not a home or office or factory or church or school anywhere in which some hangdog apprehension is not eating at the hearts of men and women and children. That's really what troubles us, isn't it, about the future? It is so uncertain and so unknown, and we fear the very real possibilities that may lie in wait to ambush us. Economic troubles, whether personal or national, unavoidable accident, a war that may take our children or grandchildren far away, disease or disability, loss, loneliness. And what is the answer to this very human condition? The only answer I know is back there a few days ago in the Christmas story. Old Man Simeon sums it up in one of the first Christmas songs, a song we do not sing on Christmas Eve. And what is this song about, this Christmas carol for the coming year? This day I have seen with my own eyes the deliverance which you have made ready in full view of all nations. It's a song that says God is powerfully at work in human life, the affairs of nations, even the events of our days. Of course, even as I say it, I wonder if we've not been so formed by contemporary and secular views of reality, thinking about life, that it's almost impossible for us to take it seriously. That God is with us in our future, working there some growth, some health, some happiness, that we can walk into tomorrow trusting Him to be there for us, working well-being and peace in our world, be there with us, giving us the strength we need to deal with whatever comes creatively and constructively. Of course, this seeing of Simeon is a seeing which is not seeing, because it is a seeing with the eyes of faith, the seeing of a Simeon who looks at a simple, ordinary child and sees what? Sees the presence of God in his world, dares to believe that in this small creature, God is already making a move to redeem the whole world's life. I think the trouble with this culture and time is that it refuses to believe in anything other than the visible, the tangible, the provable. But this old man of faith can see. A physician who's been around many years loves to recite an old but lovely prayer. Days pass, the years vanish, and we walk sightless among miracles. Lord, fill our eyes with seeing and our minds with knowing. Let there be moments when your presence, like lightning, illumines the darkness in which we walk. Help us to see, wherever we gaze, that the bush does burn unconsumed. And we, clay touched by God, will reach out for holiness and exclaim in wonder, how filled with awe is this place, and we did not know it. The Jerusalem of the day was a busy place, worried and troubled, says the old story, but there's one old man who can rise above it all with the eyes of trust that sees a future full of God. And we can face ours with hope and courage only as before its mystery and foreboding we become seers of faith. Learn to see with the eyes of old Simeon. There's a poem which I sometimes read at the turn of the year, and I said to the man who stood at the gate of the year, "Give me light, that I may tread safely into the unknown." And he replied, "Go out in the darkness, put your hand into the hand of God, that shall be to you better than light and safer than a known way." Perhaps you remember it. What you may not remember is that King George IV of Great Britain first read this poem in his Christmas broadcast to the world in 1939, just as Europe had burst into the cruelty and uncertainty of World War II. And if ever the future seemed uncertain, if not hopeless, such was the moment. Yet the leader of his people urges them to remember that God also walks with them into that uncertain future. And it was that faith, more than the sentimental comfort or security blanket, it was that faith that enabled English men and women to hold on when any reading of the facts would have told them to surrender. Indeed, there were voices saying we should surrender, which gave them the indomitable spirit and courage to create new facts and new future. And this is what real faith in God always does. Faith that He's present to our story, faith that He's working His will in our lives, even when we can't see it. It enables us to rise above the tyranny of facts. The facts of the day of Simeon were self-evident. The domination of the ruling elite, the incredible imperial power of Rome, the madness of the mobs. But Simeon did not live by these. He lived by a faith that enabled him to see new hope and new possibility in a newborn babe. And what are the facts of our time? What are the facts in your life this morning? Economic uncertainty, troubled relationship, problems with the kids, discouraging medical diagnosis, the batterings of age, some recent loss. What are the facts of your life that seem to shut down tomorrow? The old story says that these are never the whole story. There is something you're not seeing. There is someone at your side, on your side, ready to give you the strength and ingenuity, the courage and insight to uncover new possibilities, new relationships, new enthusiasms, new ways. This doesn't mean that God guarantees smooth, painless, untroubled, easy paths in the way ahead. Simeon knew this. This child, he says, this salvation, this healing will be rejected by many, and it will pierce your heart, little mother. I'm more and more amazed as the years go by at how people turn to God expecting Him to be a problem solver, a rescuer from pain and loss, and when He doesn't come through the way they want, they give up on Him in anger and doubt. Again and again I encounter people in sadness and grief who miss what He has to give because they're angry at what He has not given. And what can I say but that most of the time God does not rescue us from life. He didn't Jesus, nor Paul, nor Luther. He does not you or me. And unless and until we reconcile ourselves to that reality, that the pain and problem will be there out in tomorrow, are we really able to embrace what God is trying to do for us? For Jesus, trust in God always included the possibility of suffering and pain and rejection, but it's precisely those who learn to hope and trust right in the midst of these, the setbacks, the sorrows, who are able out of it all to work wonders and truly win. Many years ago, another infant was born in Germany, crippled from birth. His body was so grotesque, so short in nature, that as a young lad, he looked like a hunchback dwarf. His mother died before he was 1 year old. His father was quite poor, but he was determined that as far as possible, he would make sure that young Charles had a good education. Charles couldn't run and play games as normal kids did. When he immigrated to the United States, he couldn't speak a word of English. The port authorities were tempted to return him to his native Germany. His face was swollen from the cold he had endured on the passage. His sight was defective. His clothes were shabby. And if anyone had a right to curse God and declare life unfair, he did. But somehow he mustered faith that God was with him in the midst of what appeared to be an impossible situation. He made up his mind that he would devote his life to discoveries that would help other people. He stayed here in America. He even found a job that paid him 12 hours a week. He demonstrated amazing abilities to the point where an infant company by the name of General Electric took him on, and there his career was marked by unparalleled research and development, to which we're all indebted. When Charles Steinmetz died in 1923, a colleague wrote of him, "Though twisted and dwarfed in body, in mind and spirit, Charles was a giant of faith. This deformed hunchback had the mind of an angel and the soul of a seer." The soul of a seer, for my eyes have seen. The trust in God, the hope in God that wades right through adversity and out the other side, at our side in the crosses of life, and most importantly, also in that final cross, trust that not even life's last day can defeat His love and challenge, love and purpose for us. Lord, now let thy servant depart in peace. Simeon can face death because he's seen the hand of God in his life. I think I need to know this, and perhaps you also, as we face tomorrow, because behind all our fears and anxieties is this final fear. And I think we fear all these others because at the bottom they all speak of this one. Unless I can sustain some peace in the face of it, as did old Simeon, this deep subterranean fear will infect all my endeavors, cause me to flee into escapes of my own invention, play loose with life's loyalties. Only as I'm able to begin the walk toward my final days with my hand in the hand of God, am I able to live responsibly and with zest this day. Some of us may not be here a year from now. That thought may drive us to drink or to flight or to God. Most every New Year's, I go back to read some favorite words of a research psychologist by the name of Robert Meyer, teaches over in Michigan, and I think I've read them before to you, but they bear repeating. Life is like riding on a fast train. On the horizon, long for events, lo, far off in the future, then they suddenly arrive, but then whoosh, they become but part of a dim past. Our existence is a rapid succession of never-returning moments. Throughout my teenage years and early 20s, I lacked this sense of life's transiency. I could hardly wait for my firstborn son to get on with growing up and for myself to arrive at real life, full adult life. Now I am where I wanted to be, and that firstborn son is 15, and his 3-year-old sister is growing up far too fast. Watching my children grow up is like viewing a time-lapse film of unfolding flowers. I wish I could periodically halt time and savor longer the pleasures of each day, lingering over each affectionate smile on little Laurie's face. But it is as futile as my trying to stop that racing train. Several friends have died recently, my parents are growing older, and precious moments from my past are slipping away. Another of time's eye blinks, and Laurie will be old enough to read these words, if not yet old enough to grasp the poignancy of the life cycle. Here in Michigan, it is winter. In our house, we turn the heat down at night, prompting my wife Carol and me to sleep snuggled under the covers like a pair of gerbils. And the secure affection of this intimate relationship provides delicious moments. But the deeper the feeling, the sadder the realization that we are growing older, and there will come a day when one of us will sleep alone, and then a day when we shall be separated from our children by an unbridgeable gulf. Pondering these troubling thoughts, I'm driven to the conviction that there is either a loving God who's behind it all, or else life is indeed an absurdity. Having reached the halfway point in my life expectancy, I'm increasingly driven to see life in an eternal perspective and to find reassurance in a being whose love and power is my only enduring hope in the face of my frailty. And because of his great promise, I can hope for grace both now and in the eternal future. In God, there is always a tomorrow. And so with Simeon, we see. We do see. Amen.